You woke up one day and everything felt off. Not bad, not broken, just different. Like someone quietly turned down the volume on your whole life, and you could not figure out who touched the dial. You stopped laughing at things that used to make you laugh. People who used to feel like home started feeling like strangers. You go to a room full of people you have known for years, and you feel completely alone. And the strangest part, you do not even want to fix it. You are not angry, you are not sad, you are just still. And then comes the question that keeps you up at 3 in the morning. What is wrong with me? Here is the truth nobody is telling you. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is happening to you. Something that does not happen to most people. Something that looks like a breakdown from the outside, but is actually a breakthrough happening on the inside. Right now, in this exact season of your life, God is doing something to you that only happens to a very specific kind of person. He is separating you, quietly, intentionally, completely. And before this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why it feels like your world is getting smaller when it is actually getting bigger. You are going to understand why the people who left you were not a loss, but a gift. You are going to understand why the silence you have been sitting in is not emptiness. It is preparation. Stay right here. What comes next will change how you see everything. Section 1, the strange feeling you cannot name. Let us start with what you have actually been experiencing, because I want you to feel seen right now. There is a feeling that has been following you around lately. You cannot quite put a name to it. It is not depression because you can still function. It is not sadness because you are not crying all day. It is not loneliness exactly, even though you do feel alone sometimes. It is something more like you are watching your own life from a window. Like you are present in the room, but you are not fully there anymore. You have been feeling it in little ways. Someone says something in a group chat, and you used to jump in immediately, but now you just read it and put your phone down. A drama starts between two people you know, and you realize you feel nothing. No pull to get involved, no urge to pick a side. You just blink at it like it is something happening on a TV show that you do not care about. You used to need to explain yourself. If someone got the wrong idea about you, it would bother you for days. You would lose sleep over it. You would run the conversation back in your head 100 times, thinking of better things you should have said. But now someone misunderstands you and you just let them. Not because you do not care about yourself, but because something in you knows that the right people do not need that explanation. And the wrong people would not believe it anyway. Noise feels heavier now, not just loud sounds, emotional noise, drama, gossip, constant complaining. Negativity that circles the same drain over and over again. You used to be able to sit in that kind of environment for hours. Now you last maybe 20 minutes before you feel physically tired. Like someone pulled a plug and all your energy is draining out through the bottom of your feet. You have been changing your mind about who you want to spend time with. Not in a cold way, not in a mean way, but people whose energy used to feel exciting now just feel draining. You leave certain conversations and you need to lie down. You leave other conversations and you feel wide awake and motivated and alive. And slowly, quietly, almost without deciding to, you have been moving toward the second kind and away from the first kind. Here is something I want you to sit with. What if every single one of those things I just described is not a problem? What if it is proof? There is a process that happens when God is getting ready to move you into a new season of your life. He does not always announce it. He does not always send a sign you can read clearly. Sometimes he just starts changing your appetite. He starts making the things that used to satisfy you feel empty. He starts making the people who used to energize you feel heavy. He starts making the noise that used to feel normal feel unbearable. He is not punishing you. He is preparing you. He is changing what you are drawn to because he needs to change where you are going. Think about it like this. If you have been eating junk food your whole life and someone wants to get you healthy, the first thing that has to happen is that junk food has to stop tasting good to you. It does not mean something is wrong with your taste buds. It means your body is changing what it needs. It is the same thing spiritually. When God is getting you ready for something greater, he starts by making lesser things lose their flavor. The problem is that change always feels wrong before it feels right. When you are going through it, it feels like loss. It feels like you are losing friends, losing energy, losing the version of yourself that used to be more fun, more social, more connected. But you are not losing anything. You are shedding it. There is a difference. You lose things you need. You shed things that were weighing you down. And I need you to hear this clearly. The things falling away from you right now, they were weighing you down. Even if they felt comfortable, even if they felt familiar, even if you loved them. Some weight feels like home because you have been carrying it so long you forgot what it was like to walk without it. The strange feeling you cannot name? It has a name. It is called separation, and it is one of the most sacred things God can do for a person. Now, before we go further, I want to stop for 1 second and ask you something. If this video is already making something click for you, if you are watching this and thinking, this is exactly what I have been going through, then you need to subscribe right now. Not because of a number, because the content on this channel is built for exactly the kind of person you are becoming. Someone who is done with surface-level answers. Someone who wants to actually understand what God is doing in their life, not just feel good for 5 minutes and forget it. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because what comes next in this series is going to go even deeper, and you do not want to miss the next one. Now let us talk about the second layer of what is actually happening here. Section 2. The invisible war nobody warned you about. Here is where things get interesting. And I mean actually interesting, not just the kind of interesting that fades when you close this app. There is a war happening right now. You probably already knew that in some quiet part of yourself. But let me be specific about what kind of war it is, because most people have the wrong picture. When people think about spiritual warfare, they think about big dramatic things, obvious disasters, sudden tragedies, clear and obvious attacks that you can point to and say, that was the enemy. But that is not how most spiritual warfare actually works. Most of it is invisible. Most of it is slow. Most of it feels like life just being complicated. The enemy is not always trying to destroy you. Sometimes destroying you is not even the goal, because the enemy has studied you long enough to know something important. You are too strong to destroy. You have survived things that should have broken you. You have gotten up from things that were supposed to keep you down. Direct attack does not work on you anymore. You have built too much faith for that. So the strategy changed. Instead of trying to break you, the goal now is to distract you. Instead of trying to take you out, the goal is to tire you out. Instead of a big obvious hit, it is 1,000 small ones, an uncomfortable conversation here, a frustrating delay there, an old wound getting poked at the exact wrong moment. Someone from your past showing up just when you were starting to move forward. A sudden rush of anxiety right before something important is about to happen. None of those things feel like warfare. They feel like bad luck. They feel like life being life. But when you zoom out and look at the pattern, you start to see that the timing is not random. The provocation always comes right before a door is about to open. The attack always lands right when you are about to step into something new. That is not coincidence. That is targeting. And here is the specific thing the enemy is looking for in you right now. He is looking for your open door. Every person has one. It is the wound that never fully healed, the fear that still has power over you, the relationship that still makes you feel small, the version of yourself that still shows up when the wrong button gets pushed. He is not trying to create new damage. He is trying to find old damage and use it. That message that came out of nowhere and made your heart drop. That comment someone made that should not have bothered you but stayed in your head for 3 days. That memory that keeps resurfacing even though you thought you had dealt with it. That specific person whose name showing up on your phone changes your mood for an hour. Those are not random. Those are the enemy showing you exactly where the door is still unlocked. But here is what makes this season different from every other season you have been through. This time, God is not just helping you survive the attacks. He is teaching you to recognize them before you react to them. He is building something in you that is more powerful than any armor. He is building discernment. Discernment is the ability to sense what is actually happening underneath what looks like it is happening. Most people live their whole lives reacting to the surface. Someone says something unkind and they react to the words. They do not stop to ask why those words were said, what that person is carrying, what spirit might be operating through that moment. They just react, and every reaction is a choice, and every choice either moves you forward or pulls you back. When you start developing discernment, you stop living at the surface. You start asking different questions, not why did they do that to me, but what is this moment trying to pull out of me? Not how do I get back at them, but what does God want to build in me through this? Not why is this happening, but what is this supposed to prepare me for? That shift is everything. Because the enemy cannot defeat a person who refuses to be a victim of the moment. He cannot trap someone who sees the trap before stepping into it. He cannot provoke a reaction from someone who has learned that their stillness is stronger than any argument. Here is an image I want you to hold in your mind. A storm hits a mountain and a puddle at the same time. The puddle gets completely disrupted. It splashes everywhere, it overflows, it loses its shape. The mountain does not even notice. The wind blows, the rain falls, and the mountain stays exactly where it is. It is not that the mountain did not feel the storm. It is that the mountain is rooted so deep that no storm can move it. God is trying to make you the mountain, not the puddle. And the only way to build a mountain is to put it under pressure for a very long time. The compression is the process. The weight is the work. The storms you have been sitting through are not punishment for your past. They are construction for your future. And that brings us to the part of this that most people never talk about. Section 3. Why the wrong people had to leave. Nothing hurts quite like watching people walk out of your life when you did not ask them to go. And I am not talking about the obvious ones. Not the people who were clearly bad for you. Not the ones who lied to you, used you, or treated you in ways you knew were wrong. Those departures make sense even when they sting. I am talking about the other kind, the ones who were not bad people, the ones who maybe genuinely cared about you, the friendships that used to feel solid, the relationships that felt like they were supposed to last. Those are the losses that stay with you, because you cannot make sense of them. There was no big fight, no dramatic ending, just a slow drift, a fading, a sense that something that used to be warm is now just cool. And you keep asking why. What did I do wrong? What changed? Why does it feel like the closer I get to God, the more alone I get from people? I want to give you the honest answer to that question. The answer that actually holds up when you sit with it. Some people were connected to a version of you that no longer exists. Think about that for a second. When you first met most of the important people in your life, you were a specific version of yourself. You had specific habits, specific fears, specific ways of seeing the world. You laughed at specific things. You chased specific goals. You tolerated specific behaviors because that version of you did not yet know that you did not have to, but you changed. Slowly, through every hard season, every moment of prayer, every night you spent crying and asking God to either fix this or show you what it meant, you changed. You are not the same person you were 2 years ago. You are not even the same person you were 6 months ago. You think differently. You respond differently. You want different things. You have different standards. You have different peace. And some of the people who loved you loved the old you. Not because they were bad, not because they were fake, but because the old you was more comfortable to be around. The old you did not make them question themselves. The old you played along with things the new you no longer has the stomach for. The old you was easier to predict, easier to influence, easier to keep in a box that felt manageable. But the new you is harder, not hard as in cold or unkind, hard as in solid. Hard as in harder to move. When you stopped reacting to every little thing, some people lost their handle on you. When you stopped explaining yourself to everyone who asked, some people decided you had become distant. When you stopped showing up to every drama, some people decided you thought you were better than them. When you started protecting your peace, some people took that personally, because your peace revealed their chaos. Here is the part that might sting a little. Not everyone who leaves your life was wrong for you. Some of them were right for who you were. They just cannot follow where God is taking you. Not because they are lesser people, but because they are going in a different direction. And two people cannot walk together if they are going to different places. That is not judgment. That is just geography. There is a reason God separated Abraham from his family before leading him to his promised land. There is a reason Joseph ended up alone in a pit before he ended up in a palace. There is a reason David spent years in the wilderness before he sat on a throne. The separation was not the obstacle to the destination. The separation was part of the route. God cannot lead you somewhere new while you are anchored to something old. So sometimes he quietly loosens the anchor. He does not always do it with a dramatic event. Sometimes he just lets the connection cool. He lets conversations get shorter. He lets the feeling of mutual understanding fade. He creates just enough distance that when the time comes to actually move forward, you have already let go enough to do it. And the people who stay, pay attention to them. Because the ones who stay when you start changing, when you start being less entertaining and more intentional, when you start saying no more and yes to less, when you start protecting your energy and guarding your peace, the ones who stick around through that transition are not just friends. They are the beginning of your new season's community. They are the people God handpicked to go where you are going. There is also another group I need to talk about. The people who did not leave but who started to change around you. Maybe they got uncomfortable. Maybe they started pushing back on the new version of you in ways the old version could not have handled. Maybe they started showing sides of themselves that you never saw before. That is also not coincidence. When you start to carry more light, things that live in darkness become visible. Not because they were not always there, but because you are now illuminated enough to see them clearly. People who were comfortable being around the unaware version of you start getting uncomfortable around the version of you that has been made aware. Because your awareness holds up a mirror. And not everybody is ready to look at what is in that mirror. None of this makes them bad people. But it does make them the wrong people for where you are going. God does not subtract from your life to hurt you. He subtracts to make room. Every person who walks away creates a space. And God is very intentional about what goes into that space. What He is putting there is better than what left. But you will not be able to see that until you stop mourning the exit and start trusting the architect. Section 4. What your silence is actually saying. Let us talk about something that most people see as weakness, but is actually one of the most powerful things you have ever grown into. Your silence. There was a version of you that could not be quiet when provoked. And I say that with zero judgment because that version of you was not wrong. You were reacting the way any person reacts when they are carrying wounds they have not fully healed from. When something hits a wound, you cry out. That is not weakness. That is just pain responding to pressure. But something happened somewhere along the way. Somewhere in the quiet seasons, in the moments of prayer you thought nobody noticed, in the midnight conversations with God where you were crying so hard you could not even form sentences, something got healed. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Enough that when something hits it now, instead of crying out, you breathe. Instead of exploding, you observe. Instead of reacting, you choose. That shift, that is enormous. And I need you to understand what it actually means. When you go silent in a moment of provocation, the other person almost always interprets it as surrender. They think you have nothing to say. They think they won. They walk away feeling like they silenced you. And they celebrate that little victory while you quietly walk away carrying something they will never understand. You did not go quiet because you had nothing to say. You had everything to say. You went quiet because you decided the battle was not worth the energy. You decided your peace was worth more than being right. You decided that some people do not deserve access to your full response because they cannot handle it anyway. And more than all of that, you went quiet because God told you to. He said, "This one is not yours to fight. Let me handle it." That is not weakness. That is spiritual authority. That is the ability to trust God's timing over your own impulse. That is maturity that most people never reach because they spend their whole lives defending themselves to people who were never trying to understand them in the first place. Here is something I want you to really sit with. Silence is a form of communication, a powerful one. When you stop arguing with someone, you are not conceding, you are withdrawing. There is a massive difference. Conceding means you accept their version of reality. Withdrawing means you have decided that their version of reality is not your responsibility anymore. When you stop explaining yourself to people who keep misunderstanding you on purpose, you are not giving up on being understood. You are just redirecting. You're explaining to the people who are actually listening. And the people who are actually listening, they already understood you before you said a word. Your silence also does something that words never could. It reveals character. When you stop reacting and start observing, you see things clearly that the noise used to hide. You start noticing who actually means well and who is just performing concern. You start noticing who is rooting for you when you are not in the room and who is quietly hoping you fail. You start noticing who celebrates your growth and who is threatened by it. The silence strips away the performance. And what is left underneath is the truth about people, about places, about situations you used to accept without questioning. This is also what the enemy hates most about where you are right now. Because the enemy thrives on reaction. Every time you reacted impulsively in the past, he got something from it. He got your peace, he got your energy, he got your witness. He got your testimony muddied by your behavior in the moment. But you stopped giving him those things. You stopped handing them over. And now he has to work a lot harder to get a response out of you. That is why the provocations have gotten more specific lately. That is why old wounds are getting poked at. That is why things from your past are being brought up. Right when you were starting to feel free from them. Because the enemy noticed that the old methods are not working. He has to go deeper to find something that still stings. He is looking for the one thing that will still make you react, still make you lose your peace, still make you step out of the stillness God has been building in you. Do not let him find it. You have come too far to go backwards for someone who is not going anywhere. You have grown too much to shrink back down into a version of yourself that used to live in reaction mode. You have spent too many quiet nights rebuilding to tear it down in one loud moment. The silence is sacred. Protect it. Not everyone deserves to hear your voice. Not every moment deserves your energy. Not every argument deserves your participation. Learning which battles are yours and which ones belong to God is not just wisdom. It is one of the most important skills a person can develop. And here is what I want you to take away from this section. Your calm is not the absence of something. It is the presence of something. The presence of trust, the presence of faith, the presence of the deep knowing that God has this under control, even when the surface looks chaotic. Calm is not what happens when nothing is wrong. Calm is what happens when something is wrong and you have decided to trust God anyway. That kind of calm cannot be faked and cannot be shaken by anything ordinary. It is built in the fire and it holds in the storm. Section 5. What is coming next and how to walk into it? We have come all the way through the strange feeling you could not name. We have walked through the invisible war being waged against you. We have talked about why the people who left had to leave. We have looked at what your silence is actually building. And now I need to tell you the most important thing of all. What is coming next? Because all of this has been preparation for something. God does not put someone through a process this deep, this specific, this intentional just to leave them in the wilderness. The wilderness is not the destination. It is the path. And the fact that you have been in it this long, that you have been walking through this kind of stretching and separating and refining, means you are closer to the other side than you realize. Let me tell you what that other side looks like. There is a version of your life that is currently being built on the other side of this season. A version that has more peace, more purpose, more alignment between who you are on the inside and what your life looks like on the outside. A version where the right people have found their way in and the wrong people have already made their exit. A version where the doors that open actually lead somewhere worth going because God spent all this time making sure you were ready to walk through them without destroying what is behind them. But here is the thing about that version of your life. It requires a version of you that has been through exactly what you are going through right now. It requires someone who has learned to be still, someone who has developed discernment, someone who has let go of the need for constant external validation, someone who trusts God's timeline over their own anxiety, someone who has been separated enough from the noise that they can actually hear God's voice clearly when He speaks. That is the version of you that this season is building. And it is not far away. It is closer than you feel right now. Here is what I want you to do as you walk toward it. Stop measuring your progress by what you can see. Most of what God is doing in this season is invisible. It is happening in the roots, not in the branches. You are not going to see visible fruit yet because the root system is not done growing yet. And that is okay. Roots take longer than fruit, but they last longer too. When you finally see the growth, you will understand why it took this long. You will understand that quick growth breaks in the first storm, but deep roots hold through every storm after that. Stop apologizing for your transformation. Not to people who knew the old you, not to people who missed the version of you that was easier to access, easier to move, easier to keep in a comfortable box. You do not owe anyone the old version of yourself. Growth is not betrayal. Change is not abandonment. Becoming who God designed you to be is not rejection of the people who loved who you used to be. It is just you answering a call that was always on your life. Stop rehearsing the pain. I know that sounds hard. I know there are things that happened in this season that genuinely hurt. Things you did not deserve. People who did not treat you the way you deserve to be treated. But every minute you spend rehearsing old pain is a minute you are not spending building new strength. The story of what happened to you matters. But it should not be the only story you are telling. God is writing a new chapter. Do not stay stuck rereading the last one. Start being intentional about your energy. You have felt in this season how heavy the wrong environments can be, how exhausting it is to sit in certain conversations, how drained you feel after spending time in certain places. That sensitivity is not a problem to fix. It is information to act on. Be more intentional. Spend more time in places that feel like life. Spend more time in conversations that build something. Spend more time with people who pour in instead of just pulling out. Your energy is finite and sacred. Treat it that way. Start trusting the closed doors. I know it is painful when a door closes and you cannot see why. It feels like loss. It feels like rejection. It feels like God is blocking you. But every closed door is God saying, there is something better, and this is not the path to it. Trust that. Not just with your words, but with your actual behavior. Stop knocking on doors God already closed. Stop trying to force relationships back to life that God allowed to end. Stop trying to get back into spaces you felt pushed out of. Sometimes the push was God. Sometimes the closing was protection. Trust it. And finally start saying thank you for the season you are in right now. Even the painful parts, even the lonely parts, even the parts that made you question everything. Because this season is doing something in you that comfort never could. It is building depth. It is building faith. It is building a version of you that does not need everything to be okay to be at peace. Because you have learned that peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is dependent on trust. and you have been building trust in the dark. That is the most important kind. A breakthrough is not just a door opening. A breakthrough is you walking through that door as someone who is actually ready for what is on the other side. You are getting ready. You might not feel it. You might still feel like you are in the middle of the hard part. But from where God is standing, the picture looks completely different. From where He is standing, He can see the end of this road. He can see who you are becoming. He can see what is waiting. And the fact that He is still working on you, still refining you, still taking you through this process instead of shortcutting it tells you everything you need to know. He is not doing all this for nothing. He does not stretch people He plans to leave. He does not refine people He plans to forget. He does not separate people He plans to abandon. He is taking you through all of this because He intends to take you somewhere that requires everything this process is building in you. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. And the day is coming sooner than you think when you will look back at this exact season, at the isolation, the silence, the confusion, the losses, the stretching, and you will understand every single part of it. You will see how the people who left made room for the people who were supposed to stay. You will see how the doors that closed redirected you to the ones God wanted you to walk through. You will see how the silence you sat in was the exact place you needed to be to hear what God was saying to you. And on that day, you will not wish this season had been shorter. You will be grateful it was exactly as long as it needed to be. Stay aligned. Stay peaceful. Keep going. What is coming is worth every single step of what you are walking through right now. If this video reached you at the exact moment you needed it, that was not coincidence. That was God. Drop an amen in the comments if this spoke to you. And tell me this, what is the one thing in this season that has been the hardest to let go of? I read every comment and I want to know where you are right now. If this blessed you, please like this video and share it with one person who might need to hear it today. Subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next on this channel. Because we are just getting started. God bless you. Keep walking.